Let's rank the top 15 wide receivers in the ACC going into 2024. I've already done the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12. I've done the quarterbacks for each of these conferences as well as the running back, so check those out if those interest you at all. And this one was a tough list towards the bottom, like the Big 12 one was yesterday, or the Big 10 one was yesterday. Towards the bottom, it was tough, but towards the top, I kind of know the top 5 receivers and how good they are. It's kind of a consensus top 5 or so in this conference, but a really good conference for receivers. I'm also including the 3 independents just to go ahead and get them in a conference: Washington State, Oregon State, and Notre Dame. I guess Washington State and Oregon State are still called the Pac-2, but I think of them as independents or maybe even Mountain West teams at this point. But Notre Dame, I always associate with them as the ACC, even though they're technically not. But as always, I left a lot of good names out. Boston College fans, don't hate me. I left out new receiver Jaron Brandley, Lewis Bond, Jaden Skeet. I left them out, so don't hate me for that. Clemson fans, they've been struggling at receivers for years now because mainly Dabo won't go in the portal. But I did leave off some that I think will be really good this season. Antonio Williams is going to bounce back from last season. He had an amazing 2022 season. You got 5-star Bryant Westco, who I've been hearing so many good things about, and I think he'll be great this year. Another 5-star TJ Moore, a highly ranked recruit for Clemson, and I think he'll be really good for Clemson as well. I think the receivers being a weakness will not go on any further, and I think they'll be a strong point in 2024 for Clemson. Also, Bo Collins is not on this list. The former Clemson receivers now at Notre Dame. I already said Malik Rutherford, I think, at Georgia Tech. I left him off this list. Chris Tyree from Notre Dame to Virginia, and I left off Malik Benson, the former Alabama receiver, now at Florida State. I left off some really good names, as you can tell, but let's get into the top 15. Number 15, Jaylen Lane at Virginia Tech. Had a really good season last year, not as good as 2022. He's going into his 5th year of college football, and he spent his first 3 at Middle Tennessee State, where he almost had a 1,000-yard season in 2022. Transferred to Virginia Tech last year and had a really good connection with Kyron Drones, over 600 yards, and I think that connection will be even better this season. Number 14, Jakori Brooks, the new receiver at Louisville. He comes over from Alabama. He's going into his 4th year, and he had a really good season at Alabama last year, over 600 yards, 8 touchdowns when he was catching passes from Jalen Milroe. This year, Louisville will go into a quarterback change. They have Tyler Shuck at quarterback, so that'll be a fun connection to watch. Number 13, Oronde Gadsden at Syracuse. Last year, he got injured very early. A Lisfranc injury took him out. Only played in 2 games. But the year before, in 2022, he had almost 1,000 yards, and he also had 6 touchdowns in 2022. So I'm interested to see what they do for him this season. Last season, in those 2 games, he played mostly at tight end, which was kind of strange. So I'll be interested to see what Fran Brown and the whole new coaching staff do with him, with Kyle McCord throwing him the ball. Number 12, Eric Singleton at Georgia Tech, coming off a really good year there. It's his freshman season, and he had over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. And the quarterback throwing him the ball at Georgia Tech is Haynes King, which, if you've seen my ACC quarterback rankings, I'm extremely high on Haynes King, and I think he's very underrated. So Georgia Tech has a lot of momentum, and this connection will be so fun to watch again in 2024. Number 11, Sam Brown, the new receiver at Miami. This is a guy that messed up my Big 12 receiver rankings the start of that video because I forgot that he went to Miami. I thought he was still at Houston. He's going into his 5th year of college football. Spent his first 2 seasons at West Virginia and then his last 2 seasons at Houston. And now he's at Miami, where he'll be the 3rd or 4th option at Miami. That receiving group is so good. And when you have somebody like Sam Brown, had over 800 receiving yards last year, as your 3rd or 4th option, your offense is going to be lethal. And number 10 is Kyle Williams, a really underrated receiver at Washington State. Like I said, I'm including Washington State, Oregon State, and Notre Dame in this list, even though I don't think Oregon State and Notre Dame got any actual receivers on the top 15, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But Kyle Williams, going into his 5th year of college football, spent his first 3 seasons at UNLV, actually, transferred to Washington State last year and caught balls from Cam Ward, the new Miami quarterback, and Cam Ward. He had over 800 yards last season and 6 touchdowns, and I think he'll be a much bigger role at Washington State now that they don't have a quarterback like Cam Ward starting for them, and they're still in that Jake Dickert offensive system. Number 9, Malachi Fields at Virginia, coming off a really good season. He's going into his 4th season there, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, and that connection between him and Calandria was really something to watch. Even though Virginia struggled, only won 3 games, I believe it was. This is a pivotal year for Tony Elliott and Anthony Calandria to show something at the quarterback position, and Malachi Fields will really help him out a lot. Number 8, Justin Ross Simmons, a new face in the ACC. He comes over from Colorado State to join Syracuse and join Fran Brown and new quarterback Kyle McCord. And last season he had a really good season, over 700 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2023. And now Kyle McCord is an upgrade at quarterback, so him and Oronde Gadson will be a really fun duo to watch this season. Number 7, Jordan Moore at Duke. He's going into his 4th season, had over 800 yards last season and 8 touchdowns. He was a former quarterback, by the way, so it's really funny to see how good he is at wide receiver and just how much of a pure athlete he is. Now, last season he had Riley Leonard at quarterback for half the season, then he got injured. This season, Duke will have a brand new everything almost. Manny Diaz comes in to be the head coach, and Malik Murphy, the backup for Texas that had to play in a few games last year for Texas, comes over. He's the starter, so that'll be an interesting duo to watch this season. Number 6, Chris Mitchell at Notre Dame. I totally forgot about Chris Mitchell, so he comes in at number 6, a very underrated receiver because he just didn't have the eyes on him at Florida International. He comes over from FIU, where he had an amazing season last year, over 1,100 yards. He also had 6 touchdowns, and he's going into his 5th year at college football. And he'll help out Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard, the quarterback from Duke that is now the quarterback at Notre Dame. So he'll help them out a lot, and he will get some national recognition going from FIU to a huge brand like Notre Dame. Number 5, Jacoby George, another one of those elite receivers at Miami. He's going into his 4th year. Last year he had 900 yards and 8 touchdowns for Miami. They get an immediate upgrade at quarterback. They go from, Tyler Van Dyke at Miami, who's now at Wisconsin, and they get Cam Ward from Washington State. So Cam Ward, he has all these elite receivers, and I cannot wait to watch him. Number 4, the last Miami receiver on this list, I promise, Xavier Restrepo. He's so good. Going into his 5th year, 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns, just like I said about Jacoby George, where he caught balls from Tyler Van Dyke, and now he gets an upgraded quarterback with Cam Ward. So just like I said about them, I cannot wait to watch 3, 4 elite receivers. Miami has Cam Ward now. They have Damian Martinez in the backfield. They have Malgo at offensive line. They have the other Malgo at linebacker. So Miami's going to be such a fun team to watch under Mario Cristobal this season. Number 3, a new face in the ACC, Colin Lacy, comes over from South Alabama to Louisville, where he'll join Jeff Brom and Tyler Shuck in that offense. And at South Alabama, he's going into his 5th season total. He spent 4 years at SAU, and he had 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns last season for South Alabama. So in this Louisville offense, he'll be such a help for Tyler Shuck, and you know how much Jeff Brom likes to pass. He just couldn't really do it last year because of the quarterback position, because of Jack Plummer. But this season, man, he has the guy to do it, and he has the receivers 100% to do it. Number 2, Eli Mannion at Stanford, just a dog of a receiver. He is so good. Most people know him from the Colorado game where he broke out, had a few catches over Travis Hunter, and just balled out. The yards in that game, go check out stats, go check out highlights from that game. He was ridiculous, but he was also ridiculous like that all season. 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns in 2023. That's with Ashton Daniels at quarterback, and they're a fun duo. Ashton Daniels has a lot to improve on this year, but I think he can do it, especially with the help of somebody like Mannion at wide receiver. Troy Taylor's going into his 2nd year at Stanford, and not like any pressure's on him, but 3-9 this year is not going to get it done, and I am really excited to watch that Stanford offense this season. Number 1, though, Kevin Concepcion at NC State, 1,200 total yards last year, 300 were rushing. He also had 10 touchdowns on the season. He can just do it all. He can be your running back. He can be a quarterback maybe, who knows, but he is a fantastic wide receiver. He's my number 1 in the ACC, and NC State does not have, they do get an upgraded quarterback. Grayson McCall comes over from Coastal Carolina, where he balled out over there. And I think he's going into his 5th or 6th year. He's a veteran quarterback for sure, and he's finally going to be on the big stage in the ACC. NC State has ACC title hopes. They really do. They have the team to do it. They have the defense to do it. But this connection, Kevin Concepcion and Grayson McCall, is one of the most underrated connections in college football. But yeah, guys, that is it for me. That is my top 15 receivers in the ACC going into 2024. Next, I have to do the top 10 to 15 G5 receivers, and then the top 10 college football receivers as a whole. So that'll be a fun and tough list to do. Follow us on TikTok at 3&OUT CFB, on Twitter 3&OUT_CFB. Thank you all for subscribing. It means so much, man. On the road to 500. Hopefully we can get there right when football season starts or the middle of the season. I appreciate y'all for watching.